You all to the Middleton City Hall.
Yeah.
I'm going to call the meeting of Middleton Plan Commission for Tuesday, January 8th, 2019 to order, and Happy New Year to all of you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the roll call.
All right, Commissioner Paulson.
Here.
Hubbard.
Present.
Brar.
Yeah.
Ferdehert.
Here.
Ramsey. Murray.
Present.
And Reed. He's here somewhere.
He was
He
here.
was here.
David
He
Reed
was
is
here.
missing.
David.
Okay, all right, so the second, next item is,
Oh, there he is. Yep, he's present.
all right. We accept him as present, right? So, okay, so the next item is the approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any changes or things? I think I looked at it, it didn't, there was a one change that I see. Well, it looked pretty good, so, the motion is for approval of the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. So the next item is, do we have the folks from HGA? So this is the sign design review, HGA 7475 Hubbard Avenue. Who's gonna take it?
I can.
All right,
Mark
go
Opitz-
ahead.
Mark Opitz wrote the comment,
Yes,
but
yes.
he said that he felt that, I mean, it fits in terms of the, you know, the style and the colors. He said the 28-inch letter height seems a bit large. He also talked to the applicant, and they're willing to reduce it slightly if the plan commission shares that concern. If not, then it could be approved as is.
What is the ordinance state? And it's before us because
It's
it exceeds the height or just because it's in that
because it's
design
in the,
district?
right, because it's in the downtown and, second story and, they've already had some signs on there. This is just, it's in the same second story location, but.
Right. What was the sign there before? I'm trying
What
to
is, sustainable engineering, right, Abby?
sustainable
Yep.
engineering.
Still there.
Smaller. Is it still there?
Okay, yeah.
It's to provide an opportunity to get all the expertise from the plan commission experts here. We got David there. David, what do you think of this sign?
Too big.
Too big.
Agree.
Yeah.
Don't you like?
I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, that's why it's here.
Like, what does the ordinance say?
The ordinance doesn't specify a maximum letter height for wall signs. It does specify a maximum overall square footage.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Based
that's
on
right.
the length of the linear length of the facade. It's 1 square foot of signage for every 1 foot of linear
linear
frontage.
foot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't address upper stories, I don't think.
Nope.
No.
Doesn't, and it only, if you're strictly following the sign ordinance, it only allows 1 wall sign per, frontage.
Yeah.
Facade, yeah.
So now this is a PDD, so there is some flexibility without going through the sign variance process, but I think looking at letter height is definitely well within the purview.
It's
of the
not an
plan
SAP
commission.
modification. It's just a design review.
I would have, if I had put this item on the agenda, I would have called it a SIP modification for sign design review.
Okay.
But I don't know that it matters either way.
Okay, so let's have some more input. So what do you think? David thinks that's too big, so you would like maybe a couple of inches shorter?
Let me modify that.
Yes.
I think the lettering is too big.
Mm.
I'm not sure that that the background for the sign is too big,
Okay,
right? It's just that having made it so big, it's cramped it into the background space.
Would you want to reduce the size of the letters by 1/3, but keep the same overall panel size?
so it's,
Third would be 20 inches.
no, it's 36
24.
now, would be 24, so.
No, the height, the
Oh,
letter
actually.
height.
The letter
Oh, the letter height.
The height is 28,
Right.
so.
Okay.
A little hard to see without a mock-up of what it
Yeah.
would look like, but
Seems to me that it would look a lot better if if the style of the sign was consistent with that at the lower story.
Yeah, the problem is HGA that is HGA's corporate typeface.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you scroll down to the,
They made it a little smaller, it would be closer to the size of the one that's below. Slightly bigger right now.
just scroll down one more, because it's the Mustard Museum is a little,
It's very different, isn't it?
it's a different,
It's not going to match the mustard museum. You got the mustard color there. And
right. We don't need to replicate that.
Oh, are they signs on both sides of the building?
three-dimensional.
yeah, that's what they would like.
Just
Yes.
flat. Right. So it,
And this
one on the
company
front
is
is
the
three
owner of the
dimensional.
building. So they're leasing
I
space
think the one
to
on the
the
front is
Mustard
three-dimensional.
Museum.
What does HGA do? Not that it matters.
Are they a design?
Well, it's the
Design firm?
library.
They're the firm that the library has hired
Yeah.
for the interior
Yeah, it's
design
design,
modifications, and
Yeah.
they're based in the Twin Cities, and they purchase Sustainable Engineering Group.
They're international consulting.
Right, yeah, okay.
My problem
Same
with
HG.
this sign, and I'm not David's design, but it just strikes me, it doesn't seem to match any of the other signs that are like three-dimensional. It just looks flat and like it was stuck on there. I think it would, in my opinion, it would look better if you, instead of having a background like that, if you had black letters and had them stick out kind of three-dimensional against the brick. I think that would look better myself. But it just doesn't seem to jive with any of the other signage on the building.
I think,
But I don't know, if we have that much purview anyway.
I
But
think the problem there is there's a sign already there, right?
Yeah.
On both sides, yeah.
So we've got all kinds of holes and fixings in that space already.
Okay, so so let's do big, somehow a little bit smaller letters, and then maybe make it more like what Dan said, maybe more stand out.
There it is now, yeah.
yeah, see, what's there now, it seems to me is more in harmony with the building.
So somehow create harmony. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good.
But that doesn't look like a sign, that just looks like letters affixed to the building.
Yeah. Right, that's
Right.
what it
It's
is.
small.
I see.
Yeah, I understand that, the size.
And
Okay.
normally we wouldn't get so nitpicky on a sign, but it is in downtown on a historic-looking building, so.
So do we have the HGA people here or not?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
No.
Let me try a motion to make the lettering 21 inches tall, retaining the size of the back plate as it is right now.
Yeah.
In that instance, will it look more in scale with
Want that back?
tradition? The Westbrook one to the right has sort of a
Oh,
bigger
it's got
background.
space, yes,
Right.
space around it.
So do we know what is the size of the tradition is, those letters? Is that about 21
I
inches?
could look it up really quickly if you bear with me.
Okay.
Um,
So we should at least have some sort of a relationship.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question, Gurdeep?
Oh, what is, there's a right underneath, there's a tradition, that what is the letter size of the tradition, so.
Oh.
So you want to have somewhat consistency, hopefully.
And what's the sign?
So it says a previously approved sign measured approximately 16 square feet.
Okay.
Logo and three rows.
The rectangle that contains.
Yeah, the previous one was only 6-inch high letters, and that's,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was too small. So somewhere.
So while Abby is looking into it, any other, I like this, so any, want to add to that motion?
28-inch letters.
I have a question. Is it lit at night?
No, it isn't.
No.
Okay.
Was there a second to your motion? I didn't think I got it. There was.
second.
Okay, we have a second now.
There is now.
Let me ask David, what do you think about recommending lettering
18-inch.
with some relief, some three-dimensionality, which all of the other signs on that scape, on that
So this is the 18, so that 21 would be probably okay then,
If you
because
look-
it's a little bit taller.
Well,
Well,
What I'm-
These are just applied letters, all this down here.
I mean, it should be no bigger than whatever that tradition is.
so it looks like the band is 24 inches. What I'm not sure about is if the lettering, I mean, it looks like it's the same size, and I'm guessing since we don't have a plan commission file for it, it was the same size, and we issued the permit without bringing it to the plan commission. So my guess is that those tradition letters are 18 inches tall, and the band is 24 inches tall.
Would you be open to modifying your motion, just that it be the letter height be no higher than the tradition? Or is it better to have it bigger higher up?
I think it probably would be good to have bigger higher up. When you're looking at it, the sign is going to look smaller when they're that much taller, right? What do you think,
don't know.
David? So you're going to stick to 21, or you think that,
What do you say you think the tradition is?
18?
18-inch letter.
24-inch banner.
Yep.
It's because it's such a slim letter.
Yeah.
I'm torn a little bit. To say it is their corporate.
Sure.
So do you want to give flexibility to the staff?
I would go with 20 inches on the same size background. I'll stay with that. See if we can move that through.
Okay, so is that okay with you? You were the second.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, any other
That
questions?
level
or-
of design is
and
above my pay grade.
Let staff give a little bit of flexibility of, if you need to make an inch or bigger or smaller, so. Okay, so the motion is to have this sign 20 inches, right?
The lettering 20 inches on the same size
Okay.
Same size back.
back.
All those in
Like-
favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is unanimous. Now we are on to something which has been, we have all looked at it for many, many times, and you can almost recite from your memory, right? So this is final plat,
Final plat.
Yes.
Red Tail Acres subdivision, 4821 County Highway Q.
And Mark's laid out the recommendation, that it would be, that the planning commission would make a recommendation to the council to approve the final plat, but then not execute the final plat until satisfactory fulfillment of the following. And I know Belrington and his consultants are working on all these. Satisfaction of all contingencies of approval of the construction plan drawings for public improvements, city developer agreement and associated surety in the final form to the satisfaction of our city attorney, and recording of an indemnification agreement that he'll be recording, holding us harmless or defending us from the private access easement that's being put over, or the public street that's being put over the private access easement. And then with a deferred effective date and needing to do all of these things by June 30th, 2019, or it's a denial.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any questions? Well, it's okay with you, I imagine, right? Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I did look at the developer agreement. I didn't really see any, it's all complete now, right?
They've been working on it with engineering and.
Okay, so the only issue was with that letter of credit, that's
The
sorted out?
letter
too?
of credit and the indemnification, but I think they're working on all of it, so.
Okay, so I looked at the plat, we have looked at that so many times, so, okay, any other questions? Yes.
Question, so the streets that are shown, those are public streets, is that correct? And have things been worked out in terms of things between this developer and the existing business there? Any
The,
standing issues?
the public works staff is recommending that there be 2 driveways, and essentially in the same location where they currently have access. I can show it to you. But I know our public works director feels that it is, you know, more than sufficient in terms of what they currently have, so. There would be driveways that they could access the street. And it's really beneficial for them, they don't have to maintain the private
And
drive.
they are amenable to that, is our understanding, or do we know?
We're
that?
not sure,
Okay.
we're not sure, basically that's why the indemnification agreement in case. But again, our attorney feels comfortable with our process to do this.
Right.
He said, right, I mean, there's no reason we can't do this, so.
Well, the county has agreed to that, right?
The
So,
county's agreed
yeah.
to the road and the location, yeah.
So I think, yes, Jennifer?
Do you have an idea when, on the outlots, what the plan is for those?
Well, some of them are stormwater, I think.
That's what the
I
notes
remember
indicate.
that from last.
Lot 4 is stormwater, I believe.
Mhm.
And then he'll be paying fees in lieu of land dedication for parks and also a park improvement fee for each.
Mhm.
Outlot 1 is also stormwater, because that's near where there's some ponding issues with
Yeah.
North Lake.
North Lake.
Sorry, took me a minute.
Okay, any other questions? David, do you have any? Everybody's happy now? We have seen it so many times, I guess it's time to move on, right? So the motion was made, right, or not yet?
Yep.
It was.
Yep.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So go and rejoice, folks. So now it goes to the city council, so. And fix up all of those little things which still need to be done, so, all right.
Find a plat approval.
Okay, underground electric. This is item number 4, gas main easement for Stagecoach Trails Department and future trailhead 6612 Century Avenue. I bet Abby would want to take
Yep.
that one.
Yeah.
This is her favorite thing, so.
So, this is a request for a 10-foot wide easement. If the city were proceeding on our own to develop the trailhead right now, we would need to authorize an easement for underground utilities, but we are not. And we don't have funding at this point to do any architecture or anything related to the trailhead, and that's largely due to the flooding. We pushed back the project because we have so much damage in the Conservancy. So at this time now, Stagecoach Trails is requesting approval for a 10-foot wide easement on the trailhead property that would serve both the apartments and the city's future trailhead. And then they would also cover the cost to upsize the utilities so that it will be able to accommodate the future trailhead. And I asked our Public Works Director to come up with an estimate for what that would mean for the city, and he thought it was probably a savings of about $1,500 for not having to do that in the future. I worked on this with Sean Stowski and also Matt Amundsen, our Public Lands Director, and we were all comfortable with this approach, and our recommendation is for approval. We did have a contingency noted in there, and that was on a modified legal description and sketch, and our engineering technician approved that today, so we don't, from our perspective, that contingency isn't needed anymore.
So does it affect what we're going to be doing with this plot in any form or shape?
Well,
Or
we
this is
won't-
going to be right next to the building and we wouldn't be doing anything there in any case?
So, it's pretty close to the west lot line, but it's not along the west lot line, and the reason is because there already is a stormwater easement there. So we had to stay outside of the stormwater easement, and, the effect, according to Sean, is that we won't be able to plant trees in this location. We certainly wouldn't foresee any impact on the future location of the building, because there's really no way we would be locating the building that close to the new apartment building. But we wouldn't be able to plant trees, we would need to avoid that in this location. But the benefit that we get is we save the future costs of having to install the utilities, and also, the alternative would be that Stagecoach would need to put a transformer box in the front of their building, because that's the only area for service. And our staff unanimously did not support that option, because it's gonna be a really nice, attractive new building, and the last thing we want is a transformer right in front of it. So, we view this as a mutually beneficial arrangement. with, full knowledge that the city council may disagree, because the council, I know when we allowed Stagecoach to use part of the city's property for temporary construction staging, the council insisted that there needed to be some form of payment, compensation for the use of that property. And so, I just want to give full disclosure there that the council may not agree with this approach, but from a staff perspective, 3 departments, we all support this approach, and we think that it's mutually beneficial, and it also serves the added purpose of not having the aesthetics of the new building marred by having a transformer box in front of it.
So look and put in your council's shoes. So if you were how would you think that, is it giving property free to the developer here, or is it win-win situation, or how would you
From my
feel?
perspective, we would need the easement anyway, so it's gonna be there when we develop the trailhead anyway.
Well, we need the utility.
We need the utility, we
Right.
don't need an easement on our own property.
Well, MG&E would need the easement.
MG&E needs.
Yeah, yeah. So, from my perspective, it is a win-win, but, I don't know how the council would view it.
So I guess the only question I might have is just to make sure that, obviously we're giving up some of the bundle of rights to put this easement in. Are those rights, what we're giving up, is that value reflective in what we're gonna get as the upsizing of the utility and that type of thing?
We talked about that a little bit, and I asked Sean if he could put together an estimate of what the value was of allowing that easement to also be used for a private entity, and he couldn't even come up with any kind of estimate, because he from his perspective, and we did have a long conversation about this in our staff meeting, this land is going to need to be encumbered by this easement when the city proceeds to develop the trailhead regardless.
By the utility.
Right,
For the utility.
Yeah.
Right.
For the
Well,
utility.
so MG&E is gonna have to get power to that building.
Yeah,
Right.
and how we would approach this in terms of valuation would be really tricky, because we're not selling land, we're not, adding land to
we're-
their
we're-
property,
We're conveying some of the bundle of rights to accommodate this utility for a private entity.
yes.
So, so we know the value of the land which we paid for that particular property. Now, could we stormwater utility easement and this could be combined rather than having 10 feet extra there?
Nope,
Because that's,
You're mixing water and electricity.
don't wanna do that.
That's
I don't know, how wide is that easement for the stormwater?
The stormwater, it's 10 feet on the city's property and 10 feet on the private property, so it's 20 feet wide.
And will that conveyance be like in a swale or in a pipe? Is it above ground or
The stormwater
a
part,
stormwater
Yeah,
pipe?
yeah.
Below ground.
It's a pipe.
it's in a pipe.
We tried to do it in the same,
You want to come to the mic here?
we tried to run it in the same easement and they won't, I think Sean said that's a no-go, because if they ever had to dig it up or,
Right.
dig it up or something. And then, but I think the 1,500 might be substantially low, because it's not just the sizing of the transformer for the future, whatever you guys put there. It's also, we're running also the gas line there. And so the gas will go in that same easement. So if you guys need any kind of gas, I don't know how you'd heat the building, but I would assume you would have gas. And so the gas, we're paying to put the gas line in too, so.
If you didn't get this easement, where would you put your electric and gas lines?
We don't have the building up.
Oh, here, I
But
can pull it up.
it's, I think it's,
Not gonna be the building.
it's basically the front corner, so.
Southeast.
Southeast, it'd be the
Southeast.
southeast corner, yeah.
And that's.
And that would
very-
require the transformer in the front.
It'd be in the front,
And then the city if you had to build that yourself, and then the city wanted to put in, they'd have to connect off of yours,
So
or
you'd have to put in a new
Would have to put in a new one.
Have to do a new one.
put in a whole new one?
You have to put in a whole new transformer. And
And gas line.
and really that's gonna, the way that MG&E works with how they do this.
Right.
Is for me to do it, when I turn the building on essentially, they call it initializing when you initialize the building, I'm initializing 46 meters. And so I'll actually get a credit back for some of the installation, running the line. Whereas if you guys were to do it, you're gonna have to probably pay for it because you're not generating 46 new meters.
Customers, yeah.
Okay.
You're not generating 46 new customers. And
Yeah.
you know, essentially, what am I supposed to do? Like, basically, if you look, it's probably about where, it's probably about where that house is. Yeah, it'd be right about there. And it just is, it's tough because the grade's coming up there, and so you have this like tower that's like out of the ground, so it's really not, I've tried to put this thing, I've been running Danny into the ground for like 4 months, 3 months, trying to come up with what the best solution was, and we tried several spots along the side of the building, and there's not enough room. So, it's kind of kind of the way things transpired with Stagecoach. It was unfortunate that it would have been better planning, I think, to have put the two sites together, knowing they're both going to be developed, and now we're kind of trying to deal with some of those things that should have been done on the front end, probably, as we go here. So.
Okay.
I'll move approval as outlined.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, any other comments either for Jacob or, yeah,
I
well,
have
first
comment.
from the commissioners, if you have, then Susan, so. Okay, Susan, you have some comments?
Yes, I'm going to speak as a council member, chair of CLC, and a resident of Middleton Hills, where we have utility easements up and down every single alley.
Yeah.
This is a real win for the city because we're not going to have to pay for putting this in when we develop the trailhead. So we save money. The only negative thing, and I don't consider it a negative, is we can't plant trees over
Right.
the lines, but we can plant our native prairie grasses, which is what belongs there, instead of the trees. So I don't see that as a negative. I think this is something that would be very good.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Could we plant box elders over there? She's gonna throw something at
Says you don't know anything about vegetation.
Not as much as I should.
I'm actually surprised that the estimate of the value is only $1,500. When you look at the cost of installing gas and electric,
I think it's probably,
I only just asked Sean to estimate the cost that they're gonna be paying to upsize the transformer, not the full
Oh.
cost that the city would incur if we were to have to do it alone.
but it seems like in terms of presentation to the council,
That should be.
in making the case, I would provide the full cost if we had to put the gas and electric in ourselves.
yes.
So now Jacob will put that transformer big enough that city can use it as well then, right? Later on or not?
Yes, and so he estimated that their cost just for upsizing it was about $1,500. But we don't know what the full cost would be if they decided to station their box at the southeast corner and then the city had to install our own. That would be much higher, but I don't know what that cost would be.
Okay. Any other comments? David, Jennifer? Dan? Okay, so then the motion is to approve the underground electric gas main easement for Stagecoach Trail Apartments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Okay, go and get going, so, all right. Well, anything else which is not on the agenda?
Move adjournment.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Gotta get
Thank
home
you.
for the-
Boy, this was a short meeting.
Speech.